risking it all. Or a fighter who's had a change of heart. When you dare to take risks, you witness passion and persistence, and that's where change happens.
Welcome back to the International Desk. I'm Robin Kerner. Let's return now to our top story. Family members of 3 missing British schoolgirls, teenagers, spoke with UK lawmakers just a short time ago. The girls are feared to have joined ISIS militants in Syria. The relatives expressed anger at police. They say they kept investigators completely informed, but feel police withheld important information from them. Well, the Turkish border isn't exactly hard to cross in many spots, and no one knows this better than Awa Damon, who's coming to us from Istanbul, but you spent a lot of time in that border region. Just give us a sense of how easy it is, how porous it is, even for 3 teenage girls from London to make their way into ISIS-held territory in northern Syria.
Well, look, Robin, first and foremost, this is a border that spans some 800 kilometers. And since the onset of the revolution-turned-war in Syria has been something of a major highway for refugees that are trying to seek sanctuary in Turkey, but also provided ample opportunity for foreign fighters or others like these 3 teenagers to cross into Syria if they do want to join groups like ISIS or any of the numerous other organizations that are part of that highly complex battlefield. Now, Turkey has long been accused of turning a blind eye to the cross-border traffic, especially jihadis and fighters and their weapons crossing from Turkey into Syria. These are allegations that Ankara has long denied, but in the last year, we have been seeing more of a concerted effort by Turkish authorities to clamp down on the border. They have been digging trenches, they've been setting up more border posts, they've beefed up their military presence significantly to the point where, in speaking to some smugglers earlier this year, they did acknowledge that yes, it has become significantly more difficult. But when we're talking about a border that is that long, that is something that is virtually impossible to try to contain and fully secure. There are going to be security breaches, especially if someone is that determined to sit it out, wait for that opportunity, slip across, and eventually, potentially, join ISIS, Robin.
You've also had conversations with people who've been on that side, perhaps tried to leave ISIS, and I think the role of young women, of teenagers, females within this fight is also fascinating. Why these young girls would want to travel to Syria, what it is they're going to look for, and more importantly, what's drawing them and who's drawing them to this conflict.
Yeah, we spoke to one young French girl actually in January who was contemplating going to join ISIS, and she was a Muslim French girl and felt that France was rejecting her, and she wanted to go and live in a so-called Islamic State where she could practice her version of Islam, and that is to wear the full black niqab, in a place where she felt that she would be free. She was engaging online on Twitter with various other members of ISIS, people who were soothing any concerns she may have had about the travel. She said what appealed to her specifically was that they were talking about how challenging life would be. They weren't trying to lure her in with promises of grandeur, but explaining to her that life was difficult. And she had this fundamental, almost visceral belief that the harder her life was in this world, the easier it would be in the next. We also spoke to one Syrian girl who was a fairly moderate Muslim who then ended up being part of a women's brigade in Raqqa, not a fighting brigade, but one that is tasked with implementing Sharia law when it comes to women. She was lured towards ISIS because of a Tunisian man that she met online that told her everything she was hearing about the Islamic State was untrue, that they were trying to create a portion of this world where people could live under a pure state of Islam. So there really is a lot of brainwashing that appears to be happening, a lot of appealing to these young women by taking avenues and appealing to parts of their lives where perhaps they're not necessarily feeling fulfilled or feeling rejected, Robin.
Awa Damon in Istanbul, thanks so much for that update and your analysis. Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to another story we're covering here at CNN. A group of US Republican senators has taken an unprecedented step to try and block a potential White House deal with Iran. Now, 47 lawmakers sent a letter to Iranian leaders on Monday. It warns the government that any agreement with the US could be broken by a future president if Congress doesn't sign off on it.
This letter is about stopping Iran from getting a nuclear deal. Iran's leaders need to understand